Let's see if I ease the throttle on. This is gonna be really hard on the drivetrain. If we can spin this up like this. Ooh, it's struggling a little bit. The main reason for doing this dyno test is I really want to get some numbers on a BBSHD equipped bike, a mid-drive motor that's been around for quite a few years.
Introducing the all-new BBSHD from Bafang, a DIY kit to turn your boring, ordinary bicycle into an electric monster. Yeah! Featuring 1,000 watts of power, built-in pedal assist. Ride responsibly, batteries not included.
It still packs a pretty good punch. They're easy to get parts for, they're easy to upgrade. It's also a really good choice if you want to convert your own electric bike, because although it kind of looks integrated into this particular frame, this frame was really designed around the motor, but the motors fit into a traditional bottom bracket. So you can take just about any bicycle, as long as there's enough physical room somewhere there to mount one of these motors onto. Now I'm running on a 48 volt battery on the stock bike. This has a 21 amp hour capacity, so we should see pretty minimal voltage sag, and then the controller should have a max current of 30 amps. Now if we do the math on the voltage, the current, that means these BBSHD motors should be putting out about 1,500 watts. Now one thing I don't know is what gear are we gonna get the best results in? So what I'm gonna do is basically start in a low gear and then kind of ramp things up. I might have to do a few different polls to see what's the best result I can get. When we're testing a hub motor bike, this is like really easy. I don't have to think about this or shift or do anything. You just run the throttle up and that's the number you get. Very, very consistent. But I think after a few runs, if we start to see some consistency, we'll know that we're getting a good result. Now this is only the second electric bike that I've tested. The number one on the list and only bike is the Area 13 Blackbird, which came in at 32, just shy of 33 foot-pounds of torque and almost 1,300 watts, 1.29 kilowatts. I have also tested the electric skateboard over here from Meepo. That one came in at 1,300 watts and 36 foot-pounds of torque. So the Meepo is actually the most powerful thing we've tested so far. Let's see if a bike can take back the crown. I'm pretty sure it can. And I've already got other bikes lined up after this. These are just a few of the bikes I'm gonna be testing probably this week. Make sure to hit that subscribe button if you want to see more e-bike dyno tests. I have the battery at 100% charge, so we're sitting right at 54 volts. The rear tire pumped up to the maximum recommended PSI for, in theory, the lowest rolling resistance. Now this is stock, the way the bike comes out of the box. On the far left, this is the horsepower in kilowatts. So if we have 1,000 watts, that's gonna be 1.00. Torque is in foot-pounds. Our speed, which is in fact the speed that it's moving, that's always gonna be higher than what's realistic on the road because there's no aerodynamic drag and we're not actually propelling any weight forward. And I'm just gonna run it all the way through the range, see what's the max RPM we can get. It's holding power pretty good at around 1,100 watts. Our torque is starting to fade and our watts are coming down. 40 mile an hour, that's pretty fast. 800 RPM. This thing can really spool up. 850. Are we gonna get to 900 RPM? This is already way faster on the top end than anything we've tested. 900 RPM. I think this is about as fast as we're gonna go. Woo! So let's do a run number 2. Now I'm in actually 7th gear right now. I left it in there on accident. Let's see if I ease the throttle on. This is gonna be really hard on the drivetrain. If we can spin this up like this. Ooh, it's struggling a little bit. We're putting some power down. Let's try the opposite. Let's go first gear. So this, I think in theory, should be max torque, but I don't actually know. Let's just see what it does if we just crank it out in just first gear. Oh, good torque numbers. Good power numbers. And that's it, maxed out. Let's try second gear now. Still pretty good torque and power numbers. Pretty decent RPM too. And that's it. All right, taking off now in third gear. I think I saw more torque in first gear for sure, but power looks pretty consistent. And it's just going to taper off from here. Going into fourth. So I think we're going to get diminishing returns from this point forward. I think we've probably hit the max we're going to get. But I'm going to do one last run in fourth gear and then stop this and see, kind of compare the numbers, see what the charts look like. Yeah, we're not quite going to get the torque in fourth gear. So here's the official numbers.
I want to interject just for a moment because I know in this video some of these charts can be a little bit hard to see on my screen in the background, but all of these dyno results are posted on my website at area13ebikes.com/dyno. So if you want to see these results, if you want to see close-up images of these charts, you can see all of those again at area13ebikes.com/dyno. You can also see how these results compare to other bikes that have been tested. Now, the other thing I want to add, and I need your feedback on, is that since the software I'm using can be downloaded by anyone, if you really want to get into the weeds on this data and do more of your own digging on these torque curves, the wattage curves, I could also post the files themselves so that you could open them up in the Your Dyno software and review them that way. So if you want that sort of information, let me know in the comments. It's a little bit more work, but if enough people want that sort of data, I'm happy to give it out.
We got 1.37 kilowatts of power. So I do think we're losing a little bit more power, a little more efficiency than we might see from a typical hub motor. But on the other hand, we got 38.04 foot-pounds of torque, and the best I've gotten so far was the skateboard at 36, and the Area 13 Blackbird came in at just under 33. So this has not only the most peak power, but it also has the most torque out of anything we've done an official test on. The Foxbat is moving to the #1 spot. There is the official result. Sorry, Blackbird, but we knew this was inevitable. Now the RPMs got way up high, but we can see that we got the peak power at fairly low numbers. So it's making the torque down low, it's making max power down low. So it looks like if you want to squeeze the most out of this bike, being in some of those lower gears is where you're going to get the most advantage. Now it has that crazy high RPM when you're shifting into the higher gears. That's why you can go 35 miles an hour on a bike like this if you have the settings unlocked. It seemed like for this particular setup, right around third gear was kind of a sweet spot. I wasn't sure exactly how this was going to look on a mid-drive. So here is our first run. You can absolutely see my shift points here. So we got power going way up. So this is interesting. We can distinctly see this is first gear, and then I shift, huge drop of course. I get back on the power. The red line is the torque. The blue line is the horsepower or the watts. On that first run, yeah, we peaked right at 38 foot-pounds. And then every subsequent gear, the torque basically just tapered right off. If we were to draw a solid line, those peaks just really go quite nicely right there. Now the wattage was a little bit different. So we're hitting the peak torque before we're hitting the peak wattage, which makes me think maybe there would be a way to optimize the gearing of this a little bit so the peak wattage and the peak torque are at the same point or closer to it, and maybe you could get a little more performance. My thinking could be totally wrong on that, but that's my thought. So first gear, we maxed out at just over 1,000 watts, 1.09 kilowatts, almost 1,100 watts. Second gear, we got 1,200 watts. Third gear, we got right up to, looks like 1.25, so 1,250 watts. And then for some reason on this first run, I had a little bit of a drop in fourth gear. Maybe my shift timing wasn't that great. And then fifth gear was down a little more, sixth was down a little more. And interestingly, in seventh, then it actually picked up a little bit on the power, and it kind of sustained the wattage. It didn't get quite as high as the peak from third gear, but it held that for quite a while. And this is what we're seeing on the other charts, that the torque typically hits very soon and then gradually tapers off. The wattage, or the max horsepower, gets up fairly quickly, stabilizes for quite a while, and it's not until you get to those upper speeds, upper RPMs, that it eventually starts fading off. So the second run I did was in seventh gear. Interesting that the torque real slowly ramps up. We get up to about 20 foot-pounds right at the beginning, and it started to taper off. And then, interestingly, there was a little bit of a spike as it picked up some more speed. I don't know why, but both the wattage and that bumped up a little bit. So in seventh gear, I could get up to, looks like a max of 1.16 kilowatts. So we still got well over 1,100 watts, and we still got over 20 foot-pounds of torque. Now I want to see first gear because I think that's where we probably had some of the best results. So torque ramps up kind of an uneven path here for some reason. But yeah, we got right up to 38.04. That was the max torque. But the first run, even where I shifted right after that, we still got 38 foot-pounds of torque just over. So it gets to that torque number really, really quickly. And then here is our peak wattage as well, all in first gear, 1.37 kilowatts. So maybe all I need to do on some of these mid-drives is run them in first gear to get the max numbers. But let's see what second gear did. Was that significantly worse or was it similar? We got 36.5 foot-pounds of torque, so not too surprised. Higher gear, we lost a little bit of torque. And then horsepower, we got 1.36, so right near the peak again. That lines up with that first chart and what I was seeing. So that'd be second gear, third gear. Peak torque in fourth gear was 30.6 foot-pounds. That's still pretty respectable. We were still able to get up to 1.29 kilowatts, so right about 1,300 watts, even pulling from fourth gear. So it looks like the wattage was starting to fade by that point. So I think if we did fifth gear, we would have just seen diminishing torque, diminishing wattage at that point. It's just not making as much power. Now I do have, of course, the ambient temperature, humidity, and pressure as well for today. It's 69.3 degrees Fahrenheit in here right now. We're at 59% humidity. So thankfully it's been nice weather for all of our tests. So I don't think that's throwing off any of our battery draw or anything like that. If you want to know more about the Area 13 Foxbat, you can check that out at area13ebikes.com.
The next dyno run I have planned is absolutely going to blow your mind.
Are we going to hit 1,000 RPM? That would be insane.
Now, it is a custom bike, and it is sort of a name brand custom motor, if that makes sense. But it really shows what's possible with power. The torque, the wattage, everything just totally surprised me. I did not see that coming. Please subscribe. Check out Area 13 e-bikes for your e-bikes, your batteries, hydraulic brake upgrades, whatever sort of e-bike parts you need. And I'll be back again soon.